"Kneel down or you'll die," said the queen. The man just smiled. From space, the planet looked serene, almost beautiful, with rivers of glittering liquid and mountains that glowed faintly under the twin suns. Yet those who knew of the planet called it Draelxis, the heart of a powerful empire ruled by Queen Azrin, a being feared across galaxies. Captain Elia's heart stood on the bridge, staring through the reinforced viewport. He adjusted the strap of his uniform and ran a hand through his short, dark hair. Beside him, Lieutenant Mara Ven gave a slight nod. Both knew what awaited them, a diplomatic mission that could turn into a trap in a heartbeat. "Captain," Mara whispered, her voice tense, "sensors detect the Queen's fleet waiting in orbit. They are massive, weapons and fighters ready for action." Elias nodded slowly, his gaze steady. "Let them watch. If she wants a show, we'll give her one, but on our terms." His calm tone carried confidence, and Myra could not help but feel a small surge of reassurance. The ship landed smoothly on a platform that seemed carved from crystal. Around them, alien courtiers in flowing robes watched silently. Their faces were elongated, eyes larger than human norms, and skin shimmering in soft metallic shades. The air itself felt different, charged with a faint, buzzing energy that made humans slightly uneasy. Elias stepped down from the ship first, walking with deliberate composure. He scanned the platform. Hovering drones moved quietly above, scanning, recording, observing. The aliens made no move to greet them. Their queen, he knew, would make them wait, and she did. At the end of the platform, on a dais made of a single colossal piece of translucent material, stood Queen Azrin. She was taller than any human, her eyes deep violet, glowing faintly, and her crown of intertwined crystal and metal seemed alive, pulsing with light. Her voice carried across the platform like a low storm. "Kneel down, human, or you'll die," she said. Her words were sharp, decisive, and her gaze seemed to pierce into the soul. Around her, alien nobles tensed, and a line of guards flexed muscles beneath their luminous armor. Elias paused. He could feel the tension, could sense the danger, yet he did not kneel. Instead, he smiled, calm, slight, confident, a smile that spoke of courage, not foolishness. The court murmured. A few gasped audibly. Not a single human had ever dared such defiance before the queen. Azrin's eyes narrowed. "Do you mock me, human?" she asked, the tone low but deadly. Elias stepped forward slowly, hands at his sides. "I do not mock you, your majesty, I respect you. But I kneel only when I choose to, not under threat." A silence fell that was heavier than the weight of the planet itself. The queen tilted her head slightly, studying him. She had seen many species bow, cringe, or beg. None had smiled. None had dared to speak with such composure. "You are bold," she said finally, "bold to a fault." "Perhaps," Elias replied, "but boldness is sometimes the only way to survive in new worlds." Azrin motioned her hand, and a guard stepped forward, a weapon glimmering with energy. Elias' hand moved slightly to the holster at his side, not to draw but to signal readiness. The queen's voice rang out like a whip. "Strike him if he does not obey." The guard froze, unsure. Elias' calm stance and confident expression were unlike anything they had trained to fight. Even in the alien empire, strength often came from fear, and humans seemed unaffected by fear. Before the weapon could fire, Elias spoke again, voice steady. "If you attack me now, it will not be a simple execution. It will be a diplomatic incident you cannot undo." The queen's eyes flickered, showing surprise. None of her court had ever challenged her logic so directly without trembling. She motioned again, and the guard lowered the weapon slightly. "Interesting," she said. "I will not kill you yet. Perhaps your audacity deserves observation." She gestured to the side, and a long hallway opened. "Walk with my envoy. You will prove if your mind is as strong as your defiance." Elias nodded and followed. Myra joined him silently, still tense. They walked through the hallway, which glimmered with alien symbols that pulsed as if alive. Drones followed them, recording every step, every gesture, every heartbeat. The queen's envoy was led by a tall alien named Rahl. His skin had the hue of polished bronze, and his eyes were calm but calculating. "Captain Hart," he said in a voice that vibrated like deep metal, "you have survived your first test. Few humans last more than a heartbeat in this court." Elias inclined his head. "Then I hope to prove that humans are worth more than a heartbeat." Rahl's eyes widened slightly. A human willing to engage in wit and diplomacy rather than fear was unusual. "Perhaps," he said carefully. "Follow me." They entered a room that was massive, like a cathedral. Holographic images of planets and stars rotated slowly in midair. On a platform in the center, several alien devices hummed and glowed. "These are your first tests," Rahl explained. "Not of strength, but of mind. Solve the problems, survive the challenges, and you may earn the Queen's respect." Elias scanned the devices. They were complex, unlike any human technology, yet he noticed patterns, logic, and flaws that the aliens themselves seemed not to see. He knelt not to the Queen, but in focus, observing the devices. His hands moved quickly, pressing symbols, redirecting energy flows, analyzing feedback. Hours passed. The aliens observed silently. Humans, Rahl noted, were adaptive in ways their species struggled to emulate. Elias' approach was unconventional. He combined trial and error with observation, improvisation with reasoning. Slowly, the devices activated in the correct sequence. Energy flowed smoothly. A soft chime indicated success. Azrin appeared suddenly at the entrance, her eyes glowing with curiosity and mild approval. "You are clever, human," she said. "Few of my species could solve that in such a short time." Elias did not bow. He smiled again. "I solve problems because survival depends on it, Your Majesty. Fear is not my guide." The Queen tilted her head. "And yet you have survived not by weapons but by intellect and nerve. Humans are fascinating." Elias looked around. "Perhaps we are. And perhaps this is why we can work together, not against each other." Azrin's expression softened slightly, though she would never admit it fully. "Your audacity is unusual. I will watch you, human. You may yet teach me something." The Queen turned and left silently, leaving Elias and Mara in the room. The drone stopped recording and Rahl exhaled slowly. "You have passed the first challenge. But remember, Captain, this is only the beginning. The Queen does not give respect lightly." Elias stood, straightening his uniform. "Then we will continue to earn it," he said confidently. Mara placed a hand on his shoulder. "I don't know how you do it, Elias. That smile, it terrifies them and amazes me at the same time." He chuckled softly. "It's not a smile to them. It's calm. Calm is sometimes stronger than fear." And with that, the human captain walked further into the alien world, unbowed, unbroken, and determined. On a planet where survival often meant submission, Elias' heart was already rewriting the rules. Little did Queen Azrin know, this man was not just a visitor. He was a glimpse of humanity's enduring spirit. The first part of the story ended with tension high, curiosity growing, and the promise that the humans' next challenges would push the boundaries of both courage and intelligence. After the first challenge, Captain Elias Hart and Lieutenant Mara Venn were led deeper into the alien palace. The corridors stretched endlessly, their walls glowing with pulsing patterns that shifted as though alive. The hum of energy filled the air, and the floor seemed almost to float beneath their feet. Elias noticed how the architecture itself was designed to intimidate. Vast spaces, high ceilings, and patterns that disoriented anyone unfamiliar with the alien geometry. "This place, it's like walking through a living brain," Mara whispered, keeping her voice low. Elias nodded. "Every empire builds itself to reflect its rulers. This one values control, observation, and precision. We'll have to match that in our own way." Their guide, the tall alien Rahl, moved silently ahead, arms folded behind him. He had watched Elias carefully during the first test and seemed slightly more cautious now. "Captain Hart," he said finally, his voice calm but firm, "the Queen is curious. She believes your species relies on luck and instinct. She intends to test your logic, creativity, and resilience next. These trials are designed to break you mentally." Elias' smile was calm, unshaken. "Then we'll break the trial instead." They entered a large chamber that seemed to defy description. The room was circular, with no visible doors behind them, and the walls shimmered faintly, reflecting distorted versions of their own forms. In the center stood a series of floating cubes, each glowing with alien symbols. Energy streams connected them in complex patterns. "This is your next test," Rahl explained. "The Queen has set a puzzle that has never been solved by outsiders. Arrange the cubes correctly and the path forward will open. Fail, and you will be trapped in this room indefinitely." Elias stepped forward, studying the cubes carefully. Each one was covered in symbols and grooves that seemed to react when touched. He crouched to inspect a cube closer. "Mara, observe the patterns. Notice how the symbols shift when we move one cube near another. There's a logic here, a sequence. It's not random." Mara nodded, examining the shifting patterns. It looks like the cubes are communicating with each other somehow. Maybe a chain reaction? Elias smiled faintly. Exactly. Humans are good at seeing connections where others see chaos. Let's try to predict the reaction. Hours passed as they worked, moving cubes, observing responses, and adjusting their strategy. The alien court, monitoring from above through hidden cameras and sensors, murmured in astonishment. A human was methodically solving what no alien outsider had ever managed. At one point, one of the cubes emitted a high-pitched hum and shot a stream of energy toward the ceiling. Mara jumped back, startled, but Elias simply raised a hand to calm her. Steady. That's a feedback mechanism, not a weapon. If we misalign one cube, it triggers this, but if aligned correctly, it stabilizes. Working together, they began to see the pattern more clearly. Elias noticed the cube's symbols were slightly different shades, indicating a hidden hierarchy. It's not just about placement, he said. It's about sequence. Some cubes influence others more than we think. With careful adjustment, the energy streams began to glow evenly, forming a stable network. The floating cubes locked into position, and a section of the wall slid open silently, revealing a corridor beyond. Rawl's expression betrayed surprise. Incredible. You have solved the puzzle faster than we expected. The Queen will be intrigued. Elias and Mara exchanged a glance. Fascinating isn't always safe, Mara whispered. As they walked down the new corridor, they encountered more tests, some physical, others mental. One required them to navigate a narrow walkway, suspended over a deep chasm filled with shimmering energy. Aliens had designed the path to shift unpredictably, responding to balance, weight, and even subtle changes in thought patterns, using psychic sensors to detect hesitation or fear. Elias moved steadily, keeping his mind calm. Fear causes errors, he muttered. We focus, we adapt, we move. Mara followed closely, trusting his lead. Each step became easier as they learned to read the walkway's subtle cues, adjusting their movements instinctively. The next challenge involved an alien simulation, hundreds of holographic projections that created a complex scenario of political conflict on Drelxis. Elias quickly realized the simulation was testing negotiation and ethical reasoning. Every decision had consequences, and incorrect choices caused instability in the simulation. Humans thrive on adaptability, Elias noted. We can consider outcomes and adjust strategies quickly. Let's see how this plays out. He began making choices that balanced morality with pragmatism. Mara monitored the simulation's feedback, noting subtle indicators of success or failure. Slowly, the scenario stabilized under their guidance, and the holographic chaos resolved into a peaceful conclusion. Rawl's voice broke the silence. This is remarkable. You are not simply clever, you are patient, perceptive, and humane, qualities rare in any species. Elias smiled. Those are the qualities that keep us alive, especially when faced with the unknown. Hours later, they reached a chamber that seemed almost like a throne room, but smaller, designed for private observation. Here, Queen Azrin herself appeared, standing silently as the humans entered. Her violet eyes glowed faintly, reflecting interest rather than anger. You have survived several tests that would have destroyed other species, she said, voice calm but firm. You have shown patience, intelligence, and creativity, yet I am still curious. What makes humans so unafraid? What gives you the courage to face the impossible? Elias met her gaze without hesitation. We survive because we adapt. We survive because we care for one another, and we survive because we do not let fear control our choices. The Queen tilted her head slightly. Care for others is rare in my empire. Most species serve themselves first. Your species is unusual. I would hope unusual is not a fault, Elias said, keeping his tone respectful. Perhaps it is a strength. Azrin's lips curved faintly, almost a smile. Perhaps I will test that further. There is a challenge ahead, one that will test not only your mind, but your ability to inspire others to act alongside you. Humans, as I have learned, value teamwork highly. We shall see if your species can turn cooperation into power. Elias nodded. We always do. Alone we survive, together we thrive. The Queen motioned for Rawl. Prepare the next trial, it will be enlightening. As they left the room, Mara whispered, Elias, you're changing her. I can see it in her eyes. She's curious, maybe even respecting us. He gave a small smile. Respect is earned, Mara, and curiosity is the first step to understanding. Once she understands what humans can do, the rules of this world might change. They entered a vast hall where multiple alien species were gathered. A crisis simulation awaited, a catastrophic energy surge threatening an entire alien colony. Aliens around them were hesitant, unsure of the best solution. Their instincts often led to hesitation or indecision. Elias stepped forward calmly. We assess the problem, divide tasks, and act together. Fear or indecision only makes failure more certain. He organized the aliens, explaining the tasks step by step. Some hesitated, unfamiliar with human methods of delegation and cooperation, but Elias' calm authority reassured them. Slowly, the group moved in synchrony, each action guided by reason, not instinctive fear. The energy surge was contained, the crisis averted, and the aliens looked to Elias with astonishment. Even Rahl appeared impressed, a rare display of emotion for his kind. Queen Azrin appeared again, her expression thoughtful. Humans are remarkable. Not for strength alone, but for the mind, for the courage to act wisely under pressure, and for the ability to inspire cooperation. Few species could achieve this in my empire. Elias bowed slightly, not in submission, but in acknowledgement of her recognition. Thank you, Your Majesty. Humans survive in this way and perhaps thrive because of it. The Queen's gaze lingered on him, measuring, considering. You may have passed the initial tests, but true understanding requires more than courage and intelligence. You will face the next trial, and there you will show not only your mind and bravery, but your heart. Elias nodded. Then we are ready. Mara looked at him, a mixture of admiration and concern in her eyes. Your smile, it's unnerving, Elias. You make it look so easy. He chuckled softly. It is not easy. It is practice. Calm and observation guide every step. That is what humans bring to any challenge: patience, creativity, and the willingness to act when others hesitate. As they prepared for the next challenge, the palace seemed to hum around them, as if the world itself recognized that something extraordinary was unfolding. A human, unbowed, unbroken, and unafraid, was showing the Empire a glimpse of a species unlike any other. And somewhere deep within the palace, Queen Azrin considered what it meant that a single human could challenge centuries of her empire's traditions simply by thinking differently, acting boldly, and smiling calmly in the face of danger. The air in the arena was heavy with anticipation. High above, Queen Azrin watched from her elevated throne, her violet eyes calm but piercing. The arena itself was massive, its walls gleaming with a translucent material that reflected light in strange, shifting patterns. A deep chasm ran through the center, filled with a softly glowing energy that seemed alive. Around the arena, elite alien warriors, trained for years in combat, sharpened their weapons and prepared for the human who had refused to bow. Captain Elias Hart stood at the entrance, Mara Ven beside him. They had been escorted through the palace halls, guided by Rahl, the tall alien whose bronze-hued skin reflected the light of the arena. Elias' expression was calm. The humans had faced challenges of mind and diplomacy, but this would test endurance, courage, and ingenuity under pressure. You will kneel, the Queen's voice boomed across the arena. Or you will die. Elias smiled slightly. I will not kneel, he replied calmly. But I will survive. The warriors moved forward, their weapons glowing with energy. They were fast, precise, and trained to anticipate every possible move, yet Elias did not step back. He observed carefully, noting the environment, the spacing of the warriors, and the energy patterns in the chasm below. Mara whispered, Elias, there's no way we can beat them with strength alone. He nodded. We won't. We'll use our minds, the arena itself, and the rules they don't expect to change the outcome. The first warrior lunged, energy blade extended. Elias sidestepped fluidly, moving just enough to redirect the attacker's momentum. The blade struck the floor with a sharp hum. Elias grabbed a loose metallic panel and shoved it toward the next attacker, using the arena's shifting energy to destabilize him. The warriors were skilled, but Elias observed patterns. When one moved, the others adjusted predictably. He began using that to his advantage. Small movements, feints, and improvised tools became weapons. A fallen panel became a shield. A piece of glowing crystal reflected energy beams to confuse the attackers, and every step was calculated. Mara followed his lead, placing objects strategically and assisting with distractions. The aliens were surprised. No human had ever fought like this, using the environment, thinking ahead, turning potential danger into advantage. Queen Azrin watched intently, her curiosity growing. She had expected fear, hesitation, or desperate attacks. Instead, she saw calm calculation, creativity, and courage. The humans did not fear death. They calculated, adapted, and acted with precision. Ilias paused briefly to study the arena. The chasm of glowing energy below was dangerous, but he noticed small platforms and ledges that could be used. With a nod to Mara, he moved toward one, baiting the warriors to follow. As the warriors pursued, Ilias jumped to a ledge, grabbing a suspended energy conduit. Using it like a swing, he redirected one of the attackers into a panel that shifted under pressure. Sparks flew, and the warrior stumbled, disoriented. Mara called out, "It's working." "Keep going," Ilias smiled slightly. "The key is patience. Force alone won't win. Strategy will." One of the elite warriors, larger than the others, approached with a slow, menacing gait. His armor shimmered, and his weapon glowed brighter than the rest. Ilias recognized this was the Queen's test, strength alone. He studied the warrior's approach, noting how his armor responded to force and how his movements were predictable despite his size. Instead of confronting him directly, Ilias ran toward the center, near the chasm. The warrior lunged, but Ilias timed his jump perfectly, using a suspension device to launch himself over the attacker. Gravity and the energy flow of the chasm worked in his favor, redirecting the warrior's momentum slightly off balance. Ilias landed behind him, using a small energy conduit to trip the attacker without causing permanent harm. The crowd of aliens gasped. Never before had a human demonstrated such understanding of physics, timing, and improvisation. Ilias and Mara moved together, relying on intuition and observation. The remaining warriors hesitated, unsure how to proceed. Human unpredictability was a weapon in itself. Each feint, each redirection, each use of the arena's features showcased a different kind of strength, one the aliens had never expected. Queen Azrin spoke aloud, her voice echoing. "Remarkable, not strength alone, but thought. Not fear, but courage." She leaned forward slightly, her curiosity evident. The final confrontation approached. The largest warrior, wounded but still standing, advanced with deliberate force. Ilias evaluated quickly. He noticed small weaknesses in the armor joints and the energy flow in the arena. Using a combination of agility and the environment, he dodged, redirected energy streams with reflective panels, and finally caused the warrior to stumble onto a safe but immobilizing energy field. The warrior was trapped, unharmed but unable to move. Ilias stepped back, breathing steadily. He had not killed a single attacker, not once had he used unnecessary force. Yet the humans had won. The arena, designed to kill or humiliate, now lay quiet. Mara approached, smiling with relief. "You did it." "I can't believe it. You used their rules against them without harming anyone." Ilias nodded. "Violence isn't the only way to survive. Observation, strategy, and courage can achieve far more." Rahl entered the arena, visibly impressed. "Captain Hart, your methods are unprecedented. The Queen has never witnessed anything like this. You challenge every expectation." At that moment, Queen Azrin descended from her throne, moving closer than she had before. Her violet eyes glowed faintly, reflecting the energy of the arena. "You have survived the arena, human. Your courage, your intellect, and your creativity have surpassed my expectations. Few in my empire would even attempt what you have done." Ilias bowed slightly, not in submission but in acknowledgement of her recognition. "Thank you, your majesty. I do not seek to challenge for the sake of pride. I seek to survive, to adapt, and to understand." Azrin studied him, her expression unreadable. "And yet you do not fear death. You do not submit. You act with calm and focus, even when surrounded by danger. Humans are unusual." "Perhaps unusual is not weakness," Ilias replied calmly. "Perhaps it is strength." For a moment, the arena was silent. The Queen's presence was imposing, yet there was curiosity in her gaze. She had expected fear, hesitation, or submission. Instead, she saw courage, intelligence, and ingenuity, a combination she had never witnessed from any species. Azrin spoke finally. "You have passed the first true trial, human, but there is more ahead, trials that will test not only your body and mind, but your ability to inspire others to act alongside you. Humans value cooperation highly. Let us see if you can turn that cooperation into strength in ways my empire has never seen." Ilias nodded, his confidence steady. "We always do. Alone, we survive. Together, we thrive." Mara looked at him, admiration mixed with awe. You make it look so easy. You're calm, it's almost unshakable. Elias gave a faint smile. It is not unshakable. It is preparation, observation, and trust in our ability to act. Calm is a tool. Fear is an obstacle. Humans survive by using their minds, not just their strength. As they prepared to leave the arena, the Queen's voice followed them, echoing in the vast space. Observe, learn, and continue. You may have survived this test, but the true trial lies ahead. There you will need more than courage or cleverness. You will need your heart. Elias glanced at Mara, and they shared a silent understanding. Each challenge had taught them more about the alien empire, about survival, and about the unique qualities humans brought to the galaxy. They had faced fear, pressure, and elite warriors, and emerged not only alive but respected. The palace halls seemed to hum with energy as they walked, almost as if the world itself recognized that something extraordinary was unfolding. A human, unbowed, unbroken, and unafraid, had challenged centuries of tradition, showing that strength alone was not the only measure of power. And somewhere deep within the palace, Queen Azrin considered what it meant that a single human could turn the rules of her empire upside down simply by thinking differently, acting boldly, and smiling calmly in the face of danger. For the first time in her reign, she wondered not how to break a visitor, but how to understand them, and perhaps how to learn from them. The palace halls of Draelxis were silent after the arena. The usual hum of energy seemed softer, more contemplative. Captain Elias Hart and Lieutenant Mara Venn were escorted to a private chamber, unlike any room they had seen before. Its walls were lined with smooth, crystalline panels that glowed faintly, and in the center hung a holographic projection of the planet, slowly spinning. The air was calm, yet charged with an almost tangible expectation. Queen Azrin stood waiting, her figure tall and imposing, yet there was something different about her demeanor. Curiosity lingered in her violet eyes, along with a faint respect that had never been extended to an outsider before. "You have proven yourself capable, human," she said. "Your mind, your courage, and your creativity have surpassed the trials set before you. Yet there is one aspect of understanding you have not yet demonstrated, your ability to consider others' needs, to balance loyalty, ethics, and practicality." Elias stepped forward calmly. "Your Majesty, humans survive not only through strength or intelligence, but through cooperation, empathy, and understanding. We consider both ourselves and those around us. Perhaps that is what you wish to see." Azrin's gaze lingered on him. "Perhaps. Or perhaps I wish to see if your species can act in a way that benefits others, even when there is no personal gain. You will face a scenario designed to test this." Rahl appeared, carrying a holographic tablet. He tapped it lightly, and a scene projected in midair. A colony of alien civilians was under threat from an unstable energy field. If left unchecked, the entire settlement would be destroyed. There were limited resources, and the aliens in the scenario were frozen by indecision, unable to act without guidance. "You must choose," Azrin said. "Act to save the colony, but also ensure the safety of your crew. Many before you have failed, choosing self-preservation over duty. Will your species act differently?" Elias studied the projection. The scenario was dangerous, but the solution was not impossible. "We will save them," he said, "and we will do so without unnecessary sacrifice." Mara watched him closely. "Elias, it's complicated. They don't understand our way of thinking. If we try to save both, it could fail." He shook his head slightly, voice calm. "Mara, humans survive by seeing connections others miss. We will find a way to act that protects as many lives as possible. Fear and indecision are the enemies here." Elias began directing the aliens in the simulation. He divided tasks logically, assigning roles based on skills, and creating a coordinated plan. His approach was methodical. Some would stabilize energy fields, others would evacuate civilians, while a small team, including simulated human crew, managed contingencies. The holographic simulation responded. The energy field pulsed and shifted unpredictably, but the humans' coordination minimized damage. The alien officials, previously paralyzed by fear, began to act under Elias' guidance, their hesitation replaced by decisive movement. Queen Azrin observed in silence, her expression unreadable. Yet her eyes reflected growing fascination. Never before had she seen a species inspire action in such a way. The humans did not dominate or command. They collaborated, encouraged, and guided. Minutes passed, and the scenario concluded successfully. The colony remained intact. The alien officials looked to Elias as a leader, and even in a simulation, their trust was earned. Rahl spoke softly, almost in awe. "Captain Hart, your approach, it is unlike anything my species has ever seen. Humans combine logic, courage, and empathy. It is remarkable." Elias nodded. "We survive by understanding, by guiding, and by protecting those who cannot protect themselves. Strength is not enough. Intelligence alone is not enough, but combined with care and cooperation, we thrive." Azrin stepped forward. "You have succeeded in a trial that tests more than skill or courage. You have demonstrated the human capacity to act morally, ethically, and effectively under pressure. Most species fail here because they either act selfishly or hesitate too long." Elias remained calm. "Your Majesty, the difference is simple. Humans learn from failure and from observation. We value lives, both our own and others, because cooperation ensures survival. That is why we endure and why we are capable of facing unknown challenges." The Queen's expression softened slightly. "You speak of values that are foreign to my people, yet they are effective. I must admit, I underestimated your species. Perhaps there is much we can learn from you." Elias inclined his head slightly, showing respect without submission. "Learning is the first step toward understanding. Perhaps there is much both our peoples can gain from cooperation rather than conflict." Azrin studied him for a long moment. Then, surprisingly, she gestured for Rahl. "Prepare a diplomatic session. This human has shown not only courage and skill, but insight into leadership and ethics. Let us see if humans can extend these qualities into negotiation and alliance." The humans were led to a chamber filled with alien dignitaries from across Drelxis. Each watched silently, curious and cautious. Elias understood that this was not a simple conversation. It was a test of perception, negotiation, and the ability to inspire trust. He addressed the assembly. "Honored representatives, we are here not as conquerors, not as subjects, but as partners. Humans survive by working together, by learning from one another, and by valuing life. We offer the same respect to you and your people. Cooperation, trust, and understanding are the strongest tools in the galaxy." Murmurs rippled through the assembly. Some were skeptical, others intrigued. But none could deny the calm confidence in his words. Myra stood beside him, observing reactions carefully. She noticed that even the Queen's advisors were considering Elias' perspective with new interest. Azrin's voice carried through the chamber. "You speak wisely, human, but words alone are insufficient. Actions define the truth of your claims. Will you demonstrate the human capacity for leadership beyond your own survival?" Elias nodded. "Yes. Show me the challenges and we will find solutions together, not alone, but with your guidance, your knowledge, and your cooperation." The Queen signaled, and a complex scenario was presented. A planet-wide resource crisis threatened several colonies. Natural disasters and unstable energy flows complicated every decision. Alien representatives argued, debated, and often reached deadlock. Humans were brought in to mediate. Elias began calmly, listening first, understanding the needs, fears, and priorities of each group. He then proposed solutions that incorporated all perspectives, balancing immediate action with long-term stability. Where one alien group hesitated, he offered reasoning and demonstration. Where another overestimated their own capabilities, he showed alternative strategies. Hours passed, yet progress was steady. The assembly gradually began to cooperate, inspired by the humans' calm approach and practical problem-solving. They saw that action guided by reason and respect could achieve results where intimidation or fear had failed. Queen Azrin observed silently, her violet eyes reflecting a new appreciation. "This human does not merely survive or fight. He inspires, guides, and unites. Perhaps, humans are the missing element in our empire's stagnation." Elias concluded the session by summarizing a plan that balanced all priorities, ensured safety, and maximized efficiency. The alien representatives nodded, murmuring approval. Even the most skeptical were persuaded by results rather than words alone. Azrin finally spoke. "Captain Hart, you have demonstrated remarkable insight, courage, and wisdom. You have acted not only for yourself, but for the benefit of others, and your species has proven capable of inspiring cooperation across differences. Perhaps there is merit in exploring an alliance." Elias smiled slightly. Your Majesty, the merit is in recognizing shared potential. Humans have survived, thrived, and flourished not by domination, but by understanding, learning, and cooperating. I believe the same can be true for your empire. The Queen considered him carefully, then nodded. You have passed trials of mind, courage, and heart. Few outsiders ever come close. You may remain here as an observer and advisor to show us what humans can teach and what we can learn from each other. Elias inclined his head respectfully. Thank you, Your Majesty. We will honor this opportunity and demonstrate the value of understanding, cooperation, and respect. As he and Mara were led from the chamber, Mara whispered, Elias, you've done more than survive. You've changed their perspective on humans entirely. He smiled faintly. That is the goal. Fear and strength alone earn attention. Courage, intellect, and heart earn respect. And respect opens doors that nothing else can. Later, as they returned to their quarters, Elias reflected on the past days. The palace, the queen, the trials. They had tested every aspect of his abilities, but humans had prevailed not through raw power but through creativity, intelligence, and empathy. In the quiet of their room, Mara asked, Do you think they truly understand us now? Elias looked out at the alien skyline glowing under twin suns. They are beginning to. And understanding is the first step toward friendship, alliance, and perhaps a future where humans and Dralixians can achieve more together than alone. The palace hummed softly around them, as if acknowledging the shift. A human, unbowed, unbroken, and unafraid, had not only survived but had inspired a change in perspective across an entire empire. And somewhere in the throne room, Queen Azrin considered the possibilities. Perhaps, she thought, humans were not just another species to dominate or fear. They were a species to understand, to respect, and maybe even to follow. The palace of Dralxis had become quiet, but the air still vibrated with a subtle tension, the energy of anticipation that had been building for days. Captain Elias Hart and Lieutenant Mara then walked through the corridors, not as prisoners or challengers, but as respected guests. The alien palace, once imposing and intimidating, now seemed almost welcoming in its way, as if recognizing that the humans were no ordinary species. Queen Azrin awaited them in the central hall, surrounded by her advisors and representatives from across the empire. For the first time, she addressed them not as a ruler speaking down, but as a sovereign seeking counsel. Humans, she began, her voice calm but resonant, you have shown us what many of us have never seen. You do not rely solely on strength. You do not act solely out of fear or instinct. You think, you adapt, you inspire, and you act with courage even when faced with the impossible. Elias bowed slightly. Your Majesty, we act this way because it is the only path to survive and thrive. Fear and violence can take life, but understanding, courage, and cooperation can save it and create something greater. Azrin's violet eyes reflected a faint admiration. Your words are simple, yet they carry weight. Your actions have proven them true. I have never seen an outsider survive the arena, solve the puzzles, guide a simulation, and inspire cooperation across our empire. You have done more than survive, you have changed perceptions. Rahl stepped forward, his usual reserve softened. Captain Hart, the humans have taught us that power is not only measured in strength or dominance. Influence, cooperation, and ingenuity are also forms of power. We have much to learn from you. Elias smiled slightly. Then perhaps it is time we share knowledge, not conflict. There is value in exchange, in learning from one another. That is how species grow stronger. Azrin considered his words carefully. You speak of partnership, of mutual respect. That is rare. My people often fear outsiders. We test them, we dominate them. And yet you have passed every trial without bowing, without breaking. I must respect that. The Queen motioned for the chamber doors to open. Outside, hundreds of aliens watched quietly. Among them were warriors who had faced Elias in the arena, officials from the diplomatic simulation, and observers from distant colonies. The entire court had witnessed a human who had refused to kneel and yet had won respect not through force but through mind, heart, and courage. Let it be known, Azrin announced, her voice echoing through the hall, that humanity is a species of extraordinary capability. They face danger with calm, they solve problems with insight, they inspire cooperation where fear would dominate. Humans are not to be dismissed or underestimated. They are remarkable. The chamber erupted in quiet murmurs, some in disbelief, others in admiration. For centuries, outsiders had come and gone, but none had achieved what these humans had. Even among the highest ranks of the empire, there was recognition that something had shifted. Elias stood tall, his calm demeanor never wavering. Your Majesty, respect is earned, not demanded. We do not seek to rule or dominate. We seek understanding, cooperation, and shared success. That is the true measure of strength. Azrin studied him carefully, then nodded. And that measure is perhaps one my empire has overlooked. You have taught us that courage is more than facing danger. It is also the ability to think, to act wisely, and to care for others. Mara, standing quietly beside Elias, whispered, "You did it. You've changed the rules of their world without even raising a weapon." Elias gave a faint smile. Sometimes the greatest victories are not in conquest, but in understanding. Over the next few days, the humans were escorted through the empire, observing the results of their influence. Aliens who had been skeptical now approached them with questions, seeking guidance on problem-solving, cooperation, and decision-making. The humans demonstrated methods to resolve disputes, optimize resources, and inspire action, all without coercion. In the Central Council chamber, Elias led a discussion among leaders of various alien factions. They debated energy distribution, colony safety, and resource allocation. Instead of dictating solutions, Elias facilitated discussion, showing patterns, possibilities, and outcomes. Slowly, the council began to adopt his strategies, impressed by both the results and the manner in which they were achieved. Queen Azrin watched from her seat of authority. For the first time, she felt a genuine sense of curiosity rather than judgment. Humans had not merely passed her tests, they had opened her eyes to possibilities her empire had ignored for generations. "Humans," she finally said, addressing both Elias and Mara, "you have done what I thought impossible. You have survived not through fear, not through power, but through thought, courage, and heart. You have shown that even the smallest actions, when guided by understanding, can ripple outward and change entire societies. This is a lesson we will not forget." Elias bowed slightly, acknowledging her words without arrogance. "Your Majesty, every species has strengths. Humans survive because we value observation, collaboration, and adaptability. These qualities are not unique to us. They can be nurtured in any people willing to learn. We offer knowledge, partnership, and friendship, not conflict." Azrin's violet eyes softened further. "Perhaps this is the beginning of a new era, an era where fear no longer dictates interaction and where understanding guides cooperation." The humans were then invited to a ceremonial hall, where representatives from across Drelxis presented gifts, tokens of respect, and formal recognition of humanity's achievements. The arena warriors, once opponents, now bowed in acknowledgement, not of subservience, but of respect for skill, courage, and intellect. Elias looked at Mara, and they shared a silent understanding. Their mission had been more than survival. They had demonstrated that humanity's greatest strength was not in weaponry, not in dominance, but in the unique combination of mind, heart, and courage. Azrin approached them one final time. "Captain Hart, Lieutenant Ven, you have changed the perception of an entire empire. Humans are no longer merely outsiders to be tested. They are potential allies, teachers, and partners. You have earned our respect, and in doing so, you have taught a lesson that will last generations." Elias inclined his head, voice calm. "Respect is earned, Your Majesty. Trust is built through action. We hope that our presence can continue to demonstrate both, for the benefit of your people and ours." The Queen studied him for a long moment, then smiled faintly. "Indeed, perhaps human, the galaxy has underestimated your kind. No longer. You will leave here not as a prisoner or challenger, but as a guest. You may return to your people with the knowledge that humanity has shown the universe the true meaning of courage, ingenuity, and cooperation." Mara smiled, a mixture of relief and pride. "We did it, Elias." "They see us now." Elias nodded, looking around at the palace filled with energy, history, and life. "Yes, Mara, they see us. And perhaps now the galaxy will begin to see what humans truly bring to the stars. Resilience, intelligence, and the ability to inspire others to greatness without fear or force." The humans departed the palace the next day, escorted to their ship. As they looked back at the towering structure of the Drelixian Empire, Elias reflected on what had occurred. They had faced impossible odds, alien minds, and dangerous trials. Yet humanity's combination of courage, intellect, and empathy had not only ensured survival, but had altered an empire's perception of an entire species. Queen Azrin watched from the palace steps as the human ship lifted off. She had expected fear, hesitation, or defiance. Instead, she had witnessed calm calculation, inspiration, and moral courage. For the first time, she wondered whether her empire had overlooked qualities that could shape not just planets, but the galaxy itself. Elias turned to Mara as their ship exited the atmosphere. "We've done more than survive. We've shown that humans can face any challenge, not only with skill and courage, but with heart and wisdom." Mara nodded. "And we did it without forcing anyone to bow, without proving strength through violence, just by being human." Elias smiled faintly. "Exactly. Sometimes the greatest victories are the ones that change minds rather than break bodies. The universe will remember that humans are capable of more than fear or force. We lead through understanding, courage, and collaboration." As their ship accelerated toward the stars, the palace of Drelxis shrank beneath them, yet the impact of their actions remained. The empire had been challenged not by war, but by example. And in doing so, humanity had earned respect, influence, and a chance to shape the future alongside one of the galaxy's most powerful civilizations. For the first time in centuries, Queen Azrin considered that strength was not just measured by power or weapons, but by the courage to act wisely, the heart to care for others, and the mind to inspire change. Humanity had arrived, unbowed, unbroken, and unafraid, and the galaxy would never see them the same way again. Elias turned back to the viewports, watching stars streak past. "The galaxy is vast, Mara, and humans are ready for it." Mara smiled. "Ready to survive. Ready to thrive. Ready to show the universe what we are capable of." And in that moment, as the stars stretched into lines of light, humanity's presence, courage, and ingenuity were already rewriting the story of the galaxy, one action, one choice, and one smile at a time.